The warning lights flashed red across the scanner, but Taeyang ignored them. He had seen plenty of warnings in his life as a salvage worker, and most of them meant nothing. This derelict station floating in the void sector looked old, sure, but old meant valuable. Old meant tech that could feed his crew for months. The airlock hissed open and stale air rushed out. Taeyang stepped inside, his boots clanging against metal floors that had not felt footsteps in who knew how long. Behind him, Hana followed with her rifle ready, and Jihoon brought up the rear with his toolkit. "This place gives me a bad feeling," Hana said, her voice crackling through the helmet radio. She was always the careful one, always watching for danger. That was why Taeyang kept her around. "Every abandoned station gives you a bad feeling," Taeyang replied. He swept his flashlight across the corridor. The walls were smooth, almost too smooth, like they had been grown instead of built. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. Besides, bad feelings don't pay bills. They moved deeper into the station. The corridor stretched on, all pristine and perfect. No dust, no damage, no signs of age. It was wrong. Stations this old should be falling apart, filled with debris and broken equipment. This one looked like it had been sealed yesterday. Jihoon stopped at a junction, scanning the walls with his device. "These symbols. I've never seen this language before. It's not in any database." He sounded excited. Jihoon loved mysteries, especially ones involving old tech. "Can you read it?" Taeyang asked. "Not yet, but give me time." They did not have time. Taeyang felt it in his bones. The Sovereignty patrols would eventually notice their ship near the void sector. The Sovereignty controlled everything in this part of space, and they did not like people poking around forbidden zones. Questions got you locked up or worse. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. Taeyang stopped, his breath catching. The room was enormous, easily 100 meters across, with a domed ceiling that seemed to go up forever. In the center stood a pedestal, and around it thousands of screens covered the walls, all dark and dead. "What is this place?" Hana whispered. Taeyang did not answer. He was already walking toward the pedestal, drawn by something he could not explain. The pedestal was made of the same smooth material as the walls, with a circular pad on top that seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. "Don't touch anything," Hana called out. But Taeyang was already reaching for it. His hand touched the pad. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire chamber exploded with light. The screens blazed to life, showing streams of data in that same strange language. The pedestal shot up a beam of blue light that washed over Taeyang from head to toe. He tried to move, tried to step back, but his body would not respond. The light felt warm, almost gentle as it scanned him. Taeyang could feel it somehow reading him, looking inside him at things he could not understand. His heart pounded. Sweat ran down his face. And then, as suddenly as it started, the light vanished. Taeyang stumbled back, gasping. Hana grabbed his arm to steady him. "Are you okay?" she demanded. I think so." The screens changed. All of them at once displayed the same message in bright red text. The strange symbols rearranged themselves, shifting and changing until they formed words Taeyang could read. Words that made his blood run cold. Genome. Match terminated program. Human containment protocols. Failed warning, alpha strain detected. "What does that mean?" Jihoon asked, staring at the screens. Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flooded the chamber. The walls around them started moving, panels sliding into place, sealing the exits one by one. "We need to leave," Hana shouted. "Now!" They ran for the nearest exit, but it closed before they reached it. Jihoon tried the controls, but nothing responded. The station had locked them inside. Taeyang looked around frantically. The screens were still showing data, scrolling through information faster than he could read. But some words stood out. Words like weapon and containment and extinction protocol. "It's sending a signal," Jihoon said suddenly, his face pale. He was looking at his scanner. "A quantum signal. It's broadcasting across the entire sector." "No, beyond that." "It's going everywhere. Can you stop it?" Taeyang asked. "It's already done. The signal went out the moment you touched that pedestal." Jihoon looked at him with fear in his eyes. "What did you do?" Taeyang did not know. He stared at the message on the screens, at those words that seemed to accuse him of something he did not understand. Terminated program human, alpha strain. What did any of it mean? The station shuddered. Somewhere deep in its core, ancient systems were waking up. Systems that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Taeyang could hear them humming to life, Feel the vibration through the floor. Find another way out, he ordered. There has to be maintenance tunnels or emergency exits. Move. Hana and Jihoon split up, searching the walls for any opening. Taeyang stayed by the pedestal, studying the screens. Most of the text was still in that alien language, but pieces were translating themselves like the station wanted him to understand. He saw images flash by. Battles. Worlds burning. And humans. Thousands, millions of humans fighting with a ferocity that shocked him. They were not like the humans he knew, the ones who worked in mines and factories under sovereignty rule. These humans were warriors, their faces twisted with rage and determination. One image made him stop. It showed a city, burning and collapsing, and standing in the ruins a single human holding a weapon, surrounded by alien bodies. The caption below read in newly translated text, "The architect's greatest mistake. Found something." Jihoon called out, "Service tunnel, but it's tight." Taeyang tore his eyes away from the screen and ran to where Jihoon was standing. A panel had opened in the wall, revealing a narrow shaft leading down into darkness. It was barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through, but it was their only chance. "Go," Taeyang said. "I'll follow." Hana went first, then Jihoon. Taeyang took one last look at the chamber, at those screens still flashing their warning. The station was trying to tell him something, trying to warn him about what humanity really was, or maybe it was warning the galaxy about them. He dropped into the tunnel and started climbing down. The signal reached the sovereignty capital in less than a minute. Quantum transmissions moved faster than light, faster than thought, carrying their message across impossible distances. In the Grand Council chamber, 6 screens flickered to life simultaneously, showing the same warning that had appeared on the ancient station. Counselor Vex of the Krell saw it first. He was old, even by Krell standards. His scaled skin faded to a dull gray that spoke of centuries lived. He had been on the council longer than anyone could remember, and in all those years he had kept one secret above all others, a secret he had prayed would stay buried forever. But now that prayer had gone unanswered. "Emergency session," Vex announced, his voice cutting through the council chamber like a blade. "Seal the doors. No one enters or leaves until we have addressed this matter." The other 5 counselors looked at him with confusion. Counselor Mira of the Velix shifted her crystalline form, light refracting through her body. "What is the meaning of this, Vex? What is that signal?" "It means," Vex said slowly, "that our greatest fear has come to pass. The humans have found one of the archives." Silence fell over the chamber. The counselors stared at Vex, then at each other. Counselor Thane of the Dorsai, a massive creature of muscle and bone, leaned forward in his seat. "Archives? What archives? Speak plainly, Vex." Vex closed his eyes. He had hoped to die before this day came, to let the burden pass to someone else. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. He opened his eyes and began to speak. 50,000 years ago, this galaxy was ruled by a race called the Architects. They were powerful beyond measure, masters of genetics and technology. They created species, shaped worlds, bent reality itself to their will. But they had enemies. Enemies from beyond our galaxy, from the dark spaces between stars. And so the Architects created a weapon to fight them. He paused, letting his words sink in. That weapon was humanity. The counselors erupted in protest. Mira's form flashed with angry colors. Thane roared his disbelief. But Vex raised his hand, and slowly they fell silent again. The Architects engineered humans from the ground up, Vex continued. They gave them adaptability beyond any natural species. They gave them aggression, persistence, the ability to form bonds that made them fight harder for each other than for themselves. They made humans able to survive in any environment, to eat almost anything, to heal from wounds that would kill others. And they made humans brilliant, capable of learning and innovation at frightening speeds. Counselor Yara of the Sylph, her insect-like features twitching, spoke up. "If this is true, why have we never heard of it? Why do humans seem so ordinary?" "Because," Vex said quietly, "the Architects lost control of them." He called up images on the main display, ancient recordings preserved in hidden archives scattered across the galaxy. The counselors watched in growing horror as the images played out before them. Humans, millions of them, rising against their creators. Not with advanced weapons or sophisticated tactics at first, but with bare hands and primitive tools. They fought with a savagery that shocked even their enemies. When the Architects tried to control them with genetic commands, The humans adapted, breaking free of the programming. When the architects tried to starve them out, the humans ate things no other species would touch and grew stronger. The war lasted for decades. Humans learned to use the architects' technology against them. They captured ships, reverse-engineered weapons, and turned every advantage into a tool of rebellion. World after world fell to human forces. The architects, for all their power, had created something they could not control. In the end, Vex said, the architects made a terrible choice. They initiated what they called the Termination Protocol. They released a weapon that killed 99.9% of all humans in the galaxy. Billions died in a single day. The chamber was dead silent. Even the ever-present hum of the station system seemed to fade away. The survivors, Vex continued, were scattered across primitive worlds. Their memories were erased. Their technology was stripped away. The architects thought they had solved the problem, made humanity safe. But the architects themselves were dying, their civilization collapsing from the war. Before they vanished, they left behind archives with all the data about humanity, warnings for whoever came after. Our founders found those archives, Vex said. They built the sovereignty with one purpose above all others: keep humanity contained. Never let them unite, never let them remember what they were. Because if they ever learned the truth, he did not need to finish. The images said enough. Thane spoke first, his voice shaken. This cannot be real. I have fought humans. They are weak, easily beaten. They submit to our rule without much resistance. Because we have kept them that way, Vex replied. We kept them scattered. We sabotaged their attempts to unify. We started wars between their colonies to keep them fighting each other instead of us. We limited their access to education and technology, and it worked. For 50,000 years it worked. Until now, Mira said softly. Until now, Vex agreed. The signal came from one of the archive stations. A human activated it. They have seen the data. Counselor Dren of the Morphics, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. What do you propose we do? We find the humans who accessed that archive, Vex said. We find them and we silence them, before they can spread what they learned, before other humans start asking questions. And if we cannot silence them? Yara asked. Vex's expression hardened. Then we may have to consider more drastic measures. The architects left behind more than just archives. They left behind weapons, tools designed specifically to control or eliminate humanity. We hope never to use them, but if we must— You speak of genocide, Mira said, her form flickering with distress. I speak of survival, Vex corrected. The architects tried to create the perfect weapon, and they succeeded too well. If humanity awakens, if they remember what they are, they will not stop until they rule this galaxy or burn it down trying. That is what they were made to do. He looked at each counselor in turn. I call for a vote. We send Commander Vorik with a fleet to the archive station. He will retrieve the humans who accessed it and destroy all evidence. Do we agree? One by one, the counselors gave their approval. Some reluctantly, some eagerly, but all of them understood the danger. The signal had been sent. The clock was ticking. Within the hour, Commander Vorik received his orders. He was a soldier bred for war, loyal to the sovereignty above all else. When he read the briefing, his blood ran cold. But orders were orders. His fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing toward the void sector, toward the ancient station, toward 3 humans who had just learned the most dangerous secret in the galaxy, and toward a reckoning 50,000 years in the making. They barely made it out. The service tunnel led to an emergency bay where their ship waited, engines still warm. Taeyang fired up the thrusters before they even finished strapping in, launching away from the station as its defense systems came online. Weapon turrets tracked their movement, charging up energy that would have vaporized them in seconds. But Hana was faster. Her fingers danced across the weapons console, sending a missile straight into the station's power core. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. By the time the light faded, they were already jumping to hyperspace. In the cargo hold, Jihoon had connected his portable drive to the ship's computer. He had managed to download data from the station during their escape, fragments of whatever that archive contained. Now he sat hunched over his screen, his face pale in the blue glow. You need to see this, he said when Taeyang came down from the cockpit. Taeyang pulled up a chair. His hands were still shaking from the adrenaline, but his mind was clear. He had questions. So many questions, and he needed answers. Jihoon pulled up files one after another. Most were corrupted or encrypted, but some had translated themselves just like the text on the station. What Taeyang saw made his blood run cold. Genetic schematics showing human DNA but annotated with notes in that ancient language. Words like combat optimization and aggression enhancement and rapid adaptation. Designs for human bodies broken down into systems and subsystems like blueprints for a machine. They made us, Taeyang whispered. Someone made us. Not just made, Ji-hoon said. Engineered. Look at this. He pulled up a comparison chart. Human DNA next to DNA from other species. We have redundant organs, backup systems that activate if the primary ones fail. Our immune systems can adapt to almost any toxin given enough time. We can digest a wider range of food than any other known species. Our muscles can push beyond their normal limits in crisis situations. Taeyang, we are not natural. We are weapons. Hana had joined them, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. Weapons against what? I do not know, Ji-hoon admitted. But whatever it was, our creators thought we needed to be this dangerous to fight it. Taeyang scrolled through more files. Battle reports, thousands of them. Humans fighting against massive armies often outnumbered 100 to 1 and winning. Humans adapting to alien weapons, turning them against their users. Humans never surrendering, never backing down, fighting until their last breath. And then the final files, the termination protocol. Taeyang read the translated text with growing horror. A weapon designed to target human biology specifically. 99.9% fatality rate. Deployed across the entire galaxy in a single coordinated strike. They tried to wipe us out, he said. Our own creators tried to kill us all. And almost succeeded, Hana said quietly. But we survived. Some of us survived. Where do we go now? Ji-hoon asked. The sovereignty is going to be looking for us. They will want this data destroyed. Taeyang thought about it. They needed somewhere safe, somewhere the sovereignty would not find them easily. And they needed help understanding what they had found. There was only one place that fit both requirements. New Haven, he said, the colony on the edge of sovereignty space. I have contacts there. New Haven was a human settlement that existed in the gray zone between sovereignty law and complete independence. It was rough, dangerous, and home to people who asked few questions. Perfect for someone on the run. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of looking over their shoulders, checking scanners for pursuit, jumping from system to system through routes that barely qualified as safe. But they made it. New Haven looked exactly as Taeyang remembered it. A collection of domes and habitats clustered on a moon with barely breathable atmosphere. Ships came and went at all hours, carrying cargo that the sovereignty would rather not know about. It was a place where people came to disappear. Taeyang's contact, a woman named Minji, met them at the docking bay. She was younger than him, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She worked as a geneticist, one of the few humans with advanced education in that field. Most human colonies could not afford such specialists. But New Haven was different. You look terrible, Minji said by way of greeting. We had a rough few days, Taeyang replied. I need your help. All of you. Something big is happening. Minji led them through the colony to a secure lab space. Along the way, they picked up Wu Jin, a tall man with military bearing who had once served in the sovereignty forces before defecting. He had seen too much, knew too much about what the sovereignty did to human colonies when they thought no one was watching. In the lab, Taeyang explained everything. The station, the scan, the data they had recovered. He showed them the files, watched their faces change from curiosity to shock to anger. Minji studied the genetic data for hours, barely speaking. When she finally looked up, her expression was grim. This explains so much, she said. I always wondered why human biology seemed so optimized. Why we have traits that do not make sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Now I know. We were designed. Can you verify it? Taeyang asked. Is it real? I can run tests, compare the schematics to actual human DNA. But Taeyang, if this is real, if this data is accurate, it means the sovereignty has been lying to us for our entire existence. They have kept us weak on purpose. Kept us divided, Wu Jin leaned forward. They have done worse than that. I've seen the reports, the classified ones. Every time a human colony starts to thrive, starts to develop real technology or political unity, something happens. A plague, a pirate raid, a natural disaster. Always something to knock them back down. You think the sovereignty causes those disasters? Hana asked. I know they do. I helped cover up 3 of them before I could not stomach it anymore. The sovereignty is terrified of humanity. They have been since before any of us were born. Taiyang felt something burning in his chest. Not quite anger, not quite fear. Something else. Something that had been sleeping for 50,000 years, waiting to wake up. What do we do with this information? He asked. Minji looked at him, then at the others. We share it. Every human colony in the galaxy needs to know the truth. They need to know what we are, what we were, and what the sovereignty has been doing to us. They will come after us, Jihoon said. The moment we broadcast this, they will come with everything they have. Let them come, Woojin said, and there was steel in his voice. Let them see what happens when humans finally learn who they really are. Taiyang looked around the room at these people who had become his allies. His friends. Maybe something more. They were scared, he could see that. But they were also determined. Ready to take a stand, he made his decision. Prepare the broadcast, he said. It is time humanity woke up. The broadcast went out at midnight, Colony Standard Time. Woojin had modified their transmitter to piggyback on every commercial signal leaving New Haven, spreading the message like a virus through the communication networks. Within an hour, it had reached 100 human colonies. Within a day, 1,000, the message was simple. Taiyang stood in front of a camera, the recovered data streaming behind him as evidence, and spoke words that would change everything. My name is Taiyang. I am human like you. For our entire lives, we have been told that we are nothing special. A young species, weak, lucky to have a place in the galaxy under the protection of the sovereignty. But that is a lie. He explained what they had found, the ancient station, the genetic data, the truth about humanity's origin. He showed the battle records, the proof of the termination protocol, the evidence of sovereignty sabotage across human colonies for thousands of years. We were made to be warriors, he said, made to survive anything, overcome everything. Our creators feared us so much they tried to wipe us out. The sovereignty fears us so much they have spent 50,000 years keeping us weak and divided. But we are not weak. We are not nothing. And we will not be slaves anymore. The reaction was instant and explosive. On mining colonies where humans worked 16-hour shifts in dangerous conditions, workers walked out. On agricultural worlds where human farmers barely made enough to survive, people gathered in the streets. On frontier stations where human soldiers served in sovereignty forces, entire units deserted. The sovereignty tried to contain it. They sent out jamming signals, shut down communication networks, deployed troops to enforce curfews. But it was too late. The message had spread too far, too fast. And more importantly, something had changed in the humans who received it. On the mining colony of Dust Rock, a place Taiyang had once called home, the foreman called for order as workers refused to enter the mines. He was Krell, like Counselor Vex, and he had ruled the colony with an iron hand for 20 years. Now he stood before a crowd of angry humans demanding they return to work. One of the miners, a woman named Sora, who had worked the deep shafts for 30 years, stepped forward. She was old, her body bent from decades of hard labor, but her eyes burned with something new, something fierce. No, she said simply. The foreman laughed. No, you dare refuse me? I will have you all thrown in detention. Sora looked at the humans around her. Miners, mechanics, technicians, people who had never thought of themselves as anything but workers. But now, seeing the fire in her eyes, they remembered what they had just learned. What they were. What they had always been. We know what you have done, Sora said. The accidents that killed our people. The equipment that broke at convenient times. The shipments of medicine that never arrived. We know the sovereignty has been trying to break us, but we will not break. Not anymore. The foreman called for security. Armed guards arrived, weapons raised. But they hesitated. There were 20 guards and 500 humans. The math suddenly did not look so good. Sora smiled. It was not a kind smile. Leave now. Take your guards and your masters and leave our world. Or we will make you leave, the foreman fled. Within a week, Dust Rock declared independence. It was the first but not the last. At New Haven, Taiyang watched the reports flood in. Colony after colony rising up. It was chaos, beautiful and terrifying chaos. But it was also dangerous. The sovereignty would not let this stand. They would respond with force. We need to organize, Woojin said, studying tactical displays. Right now, each colony is acting alone. If the sovereignty attacks them one by one, they will fall. How do we organize thousands of colonies that have never worked together? Hana asked. Minji looked up from her research. She had been studying the genetic data non-stop, and she had found something important. There is something in our DNA, she said. Something I did not understand at first. The architects built in genetic triggers, dormant traits that activate under specific conditions. Combat, crisis, unity. When humans fight together for a common cause, these traits wake up. We become smarter, faster, more coordinated. You are saying we are literally designed to work better as a team? Jihoon asked. More than that. We are designed to bond with each other on a level other species do not understand, to fight for each other with everything we have. The sovereignty kept us divided, because they knew what would happen if we united. We would become what we were always meant to be. Taeyang felt it then, that burning in his chest growing stronger. Looking around the room, he saw the same thing in the others. A connection, a bond forming. They were not just allies anymore. They were pack, family, something deeper than words could express. Then we show them, he said. We show the galaxy what humans can do when we fight together. The first real battle came at New Haven itself. Commander Vorik arrived with a fleet of 30 warships, enough firepower to glass the entire moon. He sent a message demanding Taeyang's surrender and the destruction of all the archive data. Sora, who had arrived from Dust Rock with a fleet of civilian ships turned into improvised warships, sent the reply. Come and take it. Vorik attacked. His ships were better armed, better armored, crewed by professional soldiers. The human fleet was a ragtag collection of miners, traders, and farmers who barely knew how to fly, let alone fight. But Vorik had never fought humans who knew what they were, who fought with the coordination of a single organism, each ship supporting the others without orders needed, who used tactics that made no logical sense, strategies that should not work but did because they came from a place of pure instinct. Taeyang flew his ship into the heart of the enemy formation, drawing fire while others flanked. When his shields failed, he kept flying. When his weapons ran dry, he rammed an enemy cruiser at full speed, escaping in a pod seconds before impact. The cruiser spun out of control, taking 2 more enemy ships with it. Hana led a boarding party that took an enemy destroyer from the inside. Jihoon hacked their communications, feeding them false orders that turned their formations into chaos. Sora, in her ancient cargo hauler loaded with mining explosives, flew straight at the enemy flagship like a missile. Vorik watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. These were not soldiers. They were not even warriors by any military definition. But they fought with a ferocity that defied explanation. They fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. When the battle ended, 12 of Vorik's ships were destroyed and the rest fled. The human fleet had lost 20 vessels, but they had won. Against all odds, against superior numbers and technology, they had won. News of the battle spread faster than the original broadcast. Human colonies saw the footage and realized something crucial. They could win. They could actually win. The rebellion exploded. Colonies that had been hesitant now joined openly. Human soldiers and sovereignty forces deserted by the thousands, taking their ships and weapons with them. Entire systems declared independence. And at the heart of it all, Taeyang stood with his crew and looked at what they had started. A fire that was burning across the galaxy. A fire that had been waiting 50,000 years to ignite. The sovereignty had tried to keep humanity contained. But fire once lit cannot be so easily controlled, and humanity was burning bright. Woojin burst into the command center, his face pale. In his hand, he held a data pad showing intercepted communications. Taeyang knew immediately that something was very wrong. They are going to do it, Woojin said, his voice shaking. The sovereignty. They are going to activate an ancient weapon, something the architects left behind. Minji grabbed the pad, scanning through the data. Her expression went from confusion to horror in seconds. It is a genetic weapon, designed specifically to target human DNA. If they activate it, every human in the galaxy will die. All of us simultaneously. How long do we have? Taeyang asked. 3 days, Woojin replied. The weapon is buried beneath the sovereignty capital. They need time to power it up, to bypass the safety protocols the architects installed. But once it is active, there is no stopping it. The pulse will spread across the galaxy at faster than light speed. Silence fell over the room. 3 days. That was all the time humanity had left. All the rebellions, all the victories, all the hope they had built would mean nothing if that weapon fired. Hana spoke first. Then we stop them. We go to the capital and destroy that weapon before they can use it. The capital, Ji-hoon said slowly. The most heavily defended world in the galaxy, protected by thousands of ships, defense platforms, and ground forces. We would need an army. Then we get an army, Taeyang said. He opened a communication channel to every human fleet in the sector. This is Taeyang. The sovereignty plans to exterminate our entire species in 3 days. We have one chance to stop them. I need every ship you have. Meet us at the rally point. We are going to attack the capital. The responses came flooding in. Yes, we are coming. We will be there. From across the galaxy, human ships began converging on the coordinates Taeyang sent. Fighters, freighters, colony ships, mining vessels, anything that could fly and mount a weapon. Sora arrived from Dust Rock with 200 ships. Other colony leaders brought their own fleets. Within 48 hours, 3,000 vessels had gathered, representing nearly every free human colony. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled in recorded history. It was also completely outmatched by the sovereignty's defenses. Wu Jin laid out the tactical situation. The sovereignty capital had 10,000 warships in orbit, plus automated defense systems that could destroy entire fleets. Getting through to the surface would be nearly impossible. Getting to the weapon vault would be suicide. We do not need to win, Taeyang said, studying the maps. We just need to get a small team to the surface. While the fleet keeps them busy, we go down, find the weapon, and destroy it. A suicide mission, Hana said flatly. A necessary mission, Taeyang corrected. If we fail, humanity dies. If we succeed, we have a chance. Minji stepped forward. I am going with you. If we find the weapon, I might be able to disable it. Or at least understand how it works. Hana nodded. Where you go, I go. Someone has to watch your back. Ji-hoon smiled grimly. Well, I did not come this far to miss the finale. Count me in. Wu Jin was already checking his weapons. I know the layout of the capital. I used to serve there, remember? I can get us to the weapon vault, probably. The fleet jumped to hyperspace 20 hours before the deadline. Every human aboard knew they were probably flying to their deaths. But they also knew what would happen if they did nothing. So they flew anyway, toward the heart of the enemy, toward the final battle. They dropped out of hyperspace directly on top of the capital. Alarms blared across every sovereignty ship. The defenders scrambled to respond, but the humans were already moving, already fighting. The battle was chaos. Human ships dove into enemy formations with reckless abandon. They rammed when they ran out of ammunition. They set their reactors to overload and crashed into defense platforms. They fought with a desperation born of knowing this was the end, one way or another. Sora led a wing of mining ships straight into the thickest enemy concentration, her voice steady over the comms. For humanity, for our children, for everyone who came before us and everyone who will come after. We hold the line, and they held. Against impossible odds they held. While the battle raged above, Taeyang's team burned through the atmosphere in a stolen sovereignty shuttle. Wu Jin flew like a madman, dodging ground fire and surface-to-air missiles. They crashed more than landed, the shuttle tearing itself apart on impact. They stumbled out into the streets of the capital. Around them, the most beautiful city in the galaxy burned. Buildings collapsed. Civilians fled. The war had come home to those who had started it. The vault is 5 kilometers from here, Wu Jin said, pulling up a map. Underground, beneath the council chambers. They ran through burning streets, fighting when they had to, hiding when they could. Sovereignty security forces were everywhere, but they were disorganized, panicking. The humans had done the impossible. They had breached the capital. At the council building, they fought their way past guards and through security checkpoints. Ji-hoon stayed behind at a choke point, his weapon blazing as enemy soldiers poured in. He looked back at Taeyang once, smiled, and then turned to face the enemy alone. Taeyang wanted to go back for him, but Hana grabbed his arm. He made his choice. Do not let it be for nothing. They descended into the depths, following Wu Jin through corridors that grew older and stranger the deeper they went. These passages predated the sovereignty, predated even the architects. They were going to the very foundations of this world, to secrets that had been buried for ages. The vault door was massive, covered in the same symbols they had seen on the archive station. And standing before it, personally overseeing the weapon's activation, was Counselor Vex. He looked at them with something like sadness. You should not have come. You could have lived a few more hours in ignorance. Why choose to die knowing the end was coming? Because we are human, Taiyang said. We do not go quietly, Vex sighed. Behind him, the weapon hummed with gathering power. Displays showed a countdown. 8 minutes until activation. 8 minutes until every human in the galaxy died. The architects were right to fear you, Vex said. You are too dangerous to exist. Better to end it now while we still can. The fight was brief and brutal. Vex was old but not weak, enhanced by technology that made him faster and stronger. Hana and Wujin engaged him while Minji ran for the weapon controls. Taeyang followed her, watching as she worked frantically at the alien interface. 5 minutes, 4, 3. I cannot shut it down, Minji said, her voice breaking. The countdown is locked, but I can redirect it. Target the pulse at a different genetic sequence. What sequence? Taeyang asked. She looked at him and he understood. The sovereignty controlled everything through networked systems. Systems that relied on organic processors. Systems that all shared common genetic markers. Do it, he said. Minji's fingers flew across the controls. The countdown hit 0. The weapon fired, but instead of targeting humans, the pulse spread outward, seeking the genetic markers of sovereignty technology. Across the galaxy, every ship, every computer, every control system that relied on organic processing shut down. The sovereignty's infrastructure collapsed in an instant. In the vault, Vex staggered, his enhancements failing. He looked at Taeyang with something like respect. You won? But at what cost? What will you become without us to hold you back? Something better, Taeyang said. Or we will die trying. Vex laughed, a bitter sound, and then fled into the darkness. Above them, the battle ended as sovereignty ships went dark and drifted. The human fleet, battered and bleeding but alive, cheered. They had won. Humanity had won.